The kingdom of Judah was no stranger to turmoil. Ahaziah, a young man of just 22, ascended to the throne after a series of tragic events. His father, Jehoram, had met a gruesome end, slain by Jehu, a military commander destined to become king of Israel. To make matters worse, Ahaziah's own brothers, the rightful heirs to the throne, had been ruthlessly murdered by marauding Arabs. The crown, now heavy with the weight of tragedy, rested upon Ahaziah's brow. Ahaziah's reign began under the darkest of clouds. The shadow of his father's sins, the brutal murder of his siblings, and the looming threat from external enemies cast a pall over his kingship. The kingdom of Judah, once a beacon of faith and prosperity, was now fractured and vulnerable. Ahaziah's reign, though destined to be short, held the potential to alter the fate of Judah. Ahaziah, unfortunately, bore the heavy burden of his father's legacy. Jehoram, his father, had been a king who had strayed far from the path of righteousness. He had led the kingdom of Judah astray, embracing the idolatrous practices of the northern kingdom of Israel. Jehoram's reign was marked by violence, corruption, and a blatant disregard for the covenant with God. Jehoram had married Athaliah, the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, the infamous rulers of Israel. This alliance, though politically expedient, proved to be spiritually disastrous for Judah. Athaliah, a woman of fierce ambition and unwavering devotion to the pagan gods of her homeland, exerted a corrupting influence over Jehoram. Under their reign, the kingdom of Judah witnessed a surge in pagan worship. The sacred laws of Moses were disregarded, and the temple in Jerusalem, once the epicenter of worship for the one true God, lay neglected and defiled. Ahaziah, young and impressionable, found himself caught in the web of his mother's influence. Athaliah, a woman hardened by ambition and steeped in the ways of paganism, saw in her son an opportunity to perpetuate her control over Judah. She instilled in him a deep distrust for the God of his forefathers, encouraging him instead to seek guidance from the idols of Baal and Asherah. Athaliah's influence extended beyond matters of faith. She surrounded Ahaziah with advisors who shared her disdain for the God of Israel, men and women eager to exploit the young king's naivete for their own gain. These advisors, more interested in personal enrichment than the welfare of the kingdom, encouraged Ahaziah to pursue alliances with foreign powers known for their idolatry and ruthlessness. Under Athaliah's guidance, Ahaziah embarked on a path that mirrored his father's disastrous reign. He embraced the pagan rituals of his mother's homeland, offering sacrifices to idols and participating in fertility rites that were an abomination to the God of Israel. The cries of the prophets, who continued to warn Ahaziah of the impending judgment, were met with scorn and derision. Ahaziah, eager to prove his mettle and solidify his grip on power, sought an alliance with Joram, the king of Israel. Joram, Athaliah's nephew, shared her disdain for the God of Israel and was embroiled in a bitter conflict with the Arameans, a powerful kingdom to the north. Blinded by ambition and spurred on by his mother's counsel, Ahaziah pledged his support to Joram, committing the armies of Judah to a war that would prove to be his undoing. The alliance between Judah and Israel, though seemingly formidable on paper, was built on a foundation of sand. Both kingdoms, weakened by internal strife and divine disfavor, lacked the moral fortitude and military strength to withstand the onslaught of the Arameans. The war against the Arameans proved to be a disaster for both Judah and Israel. The Aramean army, led by the cunning and ruthless Hazael, swept through the land, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Joram, wounded in battle, retreated to Jezreel, a city in Israel, to recover. Ahaziah, sensing the tide turning against them, joined his ally in Jezreel, hoping to regroup and plan their next move. Even as Ahaziah rode towards Jezreel, a prophet of God delivered a chilling message to the young king, warning him of the impending judgment. Elijah, a fiery prophet who had confronted Ahaziah's father and grandmother, sent a messenger to intercept the king on his journey. The messenger, carrying the weight of divine authority, confronted Ahaziah with his wickedness, reminding him of the idols he worshipped and the covenant he had broken. "Thus says the Lord," the messenger proclaimed, "because you have sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, is it because there is no God in Israel to inquire of his word? Therefore you shall not come down from the bed to which you have gone up, but you shall surely die." Ahaziah, enraged by the messenger's boldness and dismissive of his message, ordered his guards to seize the prophet. The guards, however, were met with a terrifying display of divine power. Fire descended from heaven, consuming them in an instant. The messenger, his message delivered, departed, leaving Ahaziah to contemplate the grim prophecy that hung over him like a sword. The prophecy of Elijah's messenger proved true. Jehu, anointed by God to be the instrument of his judgment, arrived in Jezreel, intent on purging the land of idolatry and punishing those who had led Israel and Judah astray. Jehu, a ruthless and ambitious commander, wasted no time in consolidating his power. He ordered the execution of Joram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, bringing a swift and brutal end to their wicked reigns. Ahaziah, wounded in the initial confrontation with Jehu's forces, fled towards Megiddo, a fortified city, hoping to escape the carnage. His flight, however, was in vain. Jehu pursued him relentlessly, his chariot thundering across the plains of Jezreel. Ahaziah's wounds proved fatal, and he breathed his last in Megiddo, his reign cut tragically short after just 1 year. The news of Ahaziah's death reached Jerusalem, casting the royal court into chaos. Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, a woman consumed by her lust for power, saw her opportunity to seize control of the kingdom. With ruthless efficiency, she orchestrated a bloody coup, ordering the execution of all remaining members of the royal family, including her own grandchildren. Athaliah's actions sent shockwaves through Jerusalem. The people, horrified by her barbarity, watched in terror as she assumed the throne, proclaiming herself ruler of Judah. Her reign, built on bloodshed and treachery, marked a dark chapter in Judah's history. The temple, already defiled, was further desecrated as Athaliah imposed the worship of Baal and Asherah, outlawing the worship of the one true God. For 6 long years, Athaliah ruled with an iron fist, suppressing any opposition to her reign with brutal efficiency. The people of Judah, living in fear of her wrath, could only whisper their prayers in secret, longing for the day when the line of David would be restored. Amidst the darkness of Athaliah's reign, a single act of courage offered a glimmer of hope for the future of Judah. Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram and half-sister to Ahaziah, risked her own life to save Joash, Ahaziah's infant son, from his grandmother's murderous rampage. Jehosheba, married to Jehoiada, the high priest of the temple, used her position to smuggle Joash out of the palace, hiding him within the temple walls. For 6 years, Jehosheba and Jehoiada protected Joash, raising him in secret and instilling in him a deep reverence for the God of his forefathers. Jehosheba's act of courage preserved the lineage of David and ensured the eventual restoration of God's chosen kingdom. The story of Ahaziah, though a tale of tragedy and bloodshed, offers valuable lessons for us today. It reminds us that our choices have consequences not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. Ahaziah's decision to follow in his father's footsteps, embracing idolatry and wickedness, led to his downfall and plunged the kingdom of Judah into chaos. Furthermore, Ahaziah's reign highlights the dangers of surrounding ourselves with ungodly counsel. His mother Athaliah and his advisors, more concerned with personal gain than the welfare of the kingdom, steered him down a path of destruction. We must be careful to surround ourselves with people who will challenge us to grow in our faith and encourage us to make wise decisions. Finally, the story of Ahaziah reminds us that God is faithful even when we are not. Even in the darkest of times, God preserved a remnant of faithful believers, like Jehosheba and Jehoiada, who remained committed to him.